What's up, everybody? It's your favorite First Impressions Foul Up's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the Fans Hobby Destroyer, not to be confused with any other company. Shout out to Patreon. That being said, this is on loan to me from Lance, and he was kind enough to send it my way, but I also want to give a shout out to Joel W., who was also willing to send one my way, but I ended up getting it covered. That being said, we're going to go ahead and take a look at them, but in order to do so, we need to look at accessories. So, what character is complete without a gun? These guns are well done. They're sculpted nicely, and they got some silver, gunmetal silver paint accent here. The bright silver probably would have been better because it would have just stood out more, but it is there. And these handles fold up, and once folded up, you can take this tab and plug it into the underside of the wing. On both sides, obviously. And he'll hold it just fine using the groove system in the palm of the hand, like Make Toys used to use in Fans Project as well, go figure. And that, you know, still works tremendously well. Really, it's probably my favorite way to utilize that stuff. Like, you know, once they got a hold of it, so to speak, you never have to worry about it. You get two flight stand adapters. They're just a gray plastic. The one with the kind of narrow notches goes up towards the front. And it might need to go there. And then the one with the wider notches goes in the back. It goes right back here, I think. Yeah, it goes back in here. And then you can use these two to connect to, I guess they make their own flight stand, and then you can utilize it. You know, nice to think it through, you know, but it definitely seems like they're just trying to sell more flight stands to me. But I'm a cynical guy. What do you want from me? And then he also comes with what I think is a Power Master. The head actually does have a swivel to it, and then the bit there is painted with a metallic blue. The beak is painted yellow. Fair enough. A lot of their stuff is kind of similar when it comes to these little things. The shoulders are on little ball pegs. You get out to there. You get around until it hits up against the backpack. You get a little bit of an elbow bend, like 15 degrees or so, maybe 10 degrees on both sides. You get a little bit of paint on the elbow, which is interesting. A little silver paint there on the chest. And then for the hips, basically universals. If you rotate here, you can get, you know, oh, be careful because they do have a tendency to pop out. But, you know, you can get pretty far out. But his feet have to kind of be pointing towards the sky. And you can get forward and back. And of course, there's a knee hinge. The knees pads are painted silver. The toes on the claws are painted silver. And then you have the chrome on the back. To get him transformed, you just put the hands down by his side. And then rotate the thighs so that the hand goes into that little pocket. And then this comes up and pegs into the peg on his shoulder. Same on the other side. And then you have this, and that goes into this compartment. But to cover down on it, it is, you know, you can't like fold it back onto itself or spin it or anything. You kind of just have to like sit that on top of it. You know, not the best look in the world. Oh. So there is a C-clip here. You could take this off. I wouldn't do it. C-clips have a tendency to be fragile. I would leave it be unless you really got your heart set on that. You're like, I bought this whole thing for it to do that. Then fine. Otherwise, I'd leave it be. And here it is in jet mode. It does roll-ish. I'm guessing it would do a bit better on a surface that's not as slick. And it does so on landing gear. The landing gear fold up. A lot of it seems not completely thought out. Like, this is the rear landing gear, and it just flips back and sits like that, and flips forward and pegs in. Not terrible, but the flipping out part isn't quite the best. This one is even a different ball of wax. So these two pieces slide over. The slide mechanism is not the smoothest. And then you need to fold up this part of the landing gear and tuck it inside, and then you can kind of close it back up. I made it look easy there. It's not the best toleranced. It's like it's just not the best. Now, underneath, I want to say the paint detailings for Fans Hobby specifically are really striking. The metallic grays, the metallic silvers all look fantastic. The accents throughout, the white missiles here, like everything they did, the white accents on the wings, the gray accents along the body of the paint, body of the plane rather, the silver both along the cockpit and on the tail fin as well as the thruster here. All look great. The translucent plastic over top of more silver paint also looks great. I wish there was more paint, but what they do here is clean, sharp, and thoughtful, and you get a lot of bang for your buck with it. So for Fans Hobby specifically, I was kind of impressed. At first I thought it was from another company and I was a little disappointed, but given that it's Fans Hobby, they're not the most, you know, liberal with their paintbrush. I think they did a pretty good job. I think this is a step in the right direction for them. And I think that's about all I have to say about it, honestly. It looks a little plain, no pun intended, or perhaps a little bit pun intended. But once again, that's because of the deco chosen for the paint job. There it is next to Tiger Track. So sizable unit. All right, let's get in transform. So spin the tail fin there. Collapse these. The thruster goes in a bit. And then you untab this from the back. Double hinge that up, and then on the underside you want to disconnect the legs, basically take them down, spin them around, and I would open up these flaps here and rotate this down and peg it in. I think that's a bit out of order, but it'll help keep the solidarity as opposed to this thing kind of flopping about. All right, open this up, foot out, heel out, flap down, flip up, foot out, heel out, flap down, and then the shins pull forward like a millimeter, if you're interested in that. All right, so extend the whole nose cone area, open this back up, get the landing gear out, and let's see, split all of this. That actually helped get the landing gear out too, I guess. All right, and then this little panel here has to come up, and you kind of have to flip this over while simultaneously flipping this up, and then you want to flip the head out, right? I think. And over, get the head out, and then underneath here, just fold your landing gear in now, and then fold the tip of the nose cone, and then bring the whole thing down and kind of set it rather into place. All right, let's get the arms. So disconnect them from the wings here, and then if you pull them out to the side, they will slide up and then peg back in to the chest area there. I'm not gonna push that. I'll mess with it off camera. But those little tabs, they need to go into those little slots there. So I'll mess with that. As for this, you want to slide up the forearm and then slide down the forearm. So slide up the forearm and then slide down the forearm. And this little flap here can go in behind as well. And I will work on this off camera. And then the last step is just finishing off the backpack, which basically just involves these two pieces flipping around. And then this coming all the way up. And then I think these just come in like that. And I mean, that's it. I'll clean them up. We'll take a look at them. And we'll get in tight on the head sculpt for Dennis. And I think it's fair, but I'm not really familiar with the character. The purple is straight plastic. The silver is obviously painted on. The metallic eyes are painted on. And the yellow center is painted on. The head is on basically a hinge swivel. The hinge is down here at the base of the neck, and then the swivel works up top. I say that's a ball peg up top. So that's actually a little bit more elegant than I imagined. Using both, you can get the head all the way up, a good bit down, and then swivel side to side, and a little bit of confused Buster face. All right, let's back out a bit and take a look at this upper body. So you get a waist swivel, no ab crunch. The waist swivel is limited, but you do get it. I think it's fine. You have an outward shoulder movement, but you have to get that piece up to get the full range, which is 90 degrees. And 360 around, and where it connects is a bit of a hinge for a butterfly joint. Bicep swivel. Single hinge elbow that gets you a little shy of 90 degrees. Wrist swivel. Some nice sort of, accents that we've kind of already talked about in jet mode. Fingers are on a base pin knuckle, and then the secondary and tertiary knuckle as well for all fingers. The thumb is on a ball peg, and then a secondary knuckle. So fully articulated hands. The jet paint detailings come through nice for the torso as well. We'll back out now, look at the whole figure. We have hips and hip skirts to expose universals, which gets you pretty much the full Van Damme. I say we give it to him. Forward and back for pretty much the full Monty. I say we give it to him. Thigh swivel. Once again, the detailings look good in robot mode. Nice ratcheted knees with the sculpt following through, which is superb. Love to see it. The sliding bits here have a tendency to collapse while manipulating the figure. Just be aware of that. No big deal. Ankle tilt, nothing up. You obviously get it down because of transformation, and then you get a fairly good rocker. And there he is from the back. The last thing I want to talk about is I do think the proportions are a little wonky. However, like I said, I'm not that familiar with the character, so that it may be true to the character. I'm not entirely sure, but that's just my impressions. Size comparison wise, there it is with one of Fans Hobby's Carbots. So, I mean, pretty significant size. I mean, he comes up to about halfway up the torso. Pretty big figure, in all honesty. Final thoughts wise, we'll start with the negatives. One thing that Fans Hobby uses a lot here that they don't seem entirely comfortable with is sliding joints. More sliding joints than I feel like I'm used to seeing with them, and none of them work exceptionally well. So the chest pieces, the chest components, they slide apart. That's what caught me up getting them to peg into the shoulder pieces because I couldn't keep them slid well enough apart. Where the landing gear goes in, those pieces get caught up on their sliders. The shoulders raising up, they get caught up on their sliders. The shins slide forward, but they have a tendency to pop back upon any bit of pressure. Same goes for the forearms sliding up. There's sliders all over this thing, and none of them are done extremely well. My second biggest complaint here is articulation. It has all the bare necessities. The problem is range of motion. So the elbows don't get you 90 degrees, and you want more than 90 degrees. And you don't get much more than 15 degrees on the waist. The ankles are limited, etc. So while some elements have more articulation than you you might expect, i.e. the shoulders, the neck and head, the hips and the hands, there's enough limited articulation to really draw back what you're capable of doing in any real reasonable way here. I wish the paint was applied a bit more liberally. I think it would have done a lot for this guy, and I'm not 100% crazy about the proportions. However, I'm not sure if that's a character thing and not a me thing. That may just be I guess it's completely subjective regardless, but it may be more subjective than I'm even giving it credit for. But that doesn't mean it's without positives. The transformation is very fun, intuitive, enjoyable, and relatively smooth with the exception of the sliders. And I know there's a lot of sliders, but there's a lot of other pieces that don't rely on it as well. The paint is sharp, precise, and striking. I just wish there was more of it. The materials feel great. They actually feel better than your standard Fans Hobby piece that might have something to do with size. And I love the use of hardware. There's some nice ratchets in the hips, knees, etc. And all the accessories are used wisely. Maybe with the exception of how the Power Master actually stores, but I think it's forgivable. So ultimately a recommend from me. I think it's a solid offering, just perhaps not the most striking. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Till next time, take care.